Good afternoon. Welcome to your 1 o'clock Green Communities webinar. I'm Joanne Bissetta, the Deputy Director of the Green Communities Division, and I want to thank you for signing up to learn all about what's new and exciting about alternative fuel vehicles. Okay, hold on a second. We're just going to advance the slide. We're having a little technical difficulty. There we go. A little bit about the Green Communities Division. Those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a part of the Department of Energy Resources, and we are all things energy to all cities and towns. So if you're a municipality and you have any energy questions, concerns, ideas, we're sort of the first point of contact. We're here to help, and if we don't know the answer, we can find the person who does. A little bit more about us. Many of you may have heard about the Green Communities and Designation Grant Program. That's our meat and potatoes, but we certainly have other types of activities and resources, including an energy and tracking tool called Mass Energy Insight, which is free to all cities and towns and school districts. We have a Municipal Energy Technical Assistance Grant Program we offer every year. We provide assistance to public entities seeking energy management services. And we also have a website that has lots of tools and resources, including an archive of old webinars. Those of you who have not signed up for our e-blast, you can do so at the email located at the bottom of your screen. That's how we notify people of upcoming meetings, webinars, and grant opportunities. So if you're not on that list and you're interested in those things, you should sign up. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our awesome regional coordinators. We have 4 staff people spread throughout the state that provide on-the-ground help to cities and towns and energy committees. In Western Mass, we have Jim Barry. In Northeastern Mass, we have Neil Duffy. In the Worcester area, Kelly Brown. And in the Southeast, we have Seth Pickering. So if you have not yet reached out to these folks, make note of their email addresses and faces, and feel free to go do so. We will be having an upcoming webinar. I don't have a time and date yet, but it will be on the 3-year energy efficiency plans that were recently approved by the Department of Public Utilities. So keep an eye on your e-blast for the date and time for that. I just wanted to make you aware of that because I know that's of interest to a lot of folks. And today's presenters, we have 3 people who are going to share their knowledge about their experiences and opportunities related to alternative vehicles. First, we'll have Steve Russell, who's our Clean Cities Coordinator here at Mass DOER. And then we will have Mark Fournier, who's currently the Deputy Director of the Andover Public Works Department. And then we will have Haiti Janik, who is from Mass DEP, who will be talking about the recently announced VW settlement funds and the Mass DEP grants as well. There we go. Oh, we're skipping ahead. Okay. Before I pass it on to Steve, I'm just mentioning that this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our website in about 48 hours. There will be time at the end for questions and answers. There should be a way for you to type in questions as we go along on the right-hand part of your screen. In addition, if you find a slide that you want to save, there should be a camera icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can click on that and take a screenshot of the particular slide that you'd like to save. And without further ado, pass the mic over to Steve Russell, our Clean Cities Coordinator, who's going to talk about the various opportunities and different vehicles that are available that are alternatively fueled.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joanne, thanks for having me today. I'm here to kind of look at and tell you a little bit about the alternative fuel technology in the landscape. And the reason why I do this is because with the Clean Cities program here in Massachusetts, which I coordinate, is a Department of Energy program that our real goal is to get information out to the world about alternative fuel technologies and fuel savings technologies. So today, you know, when she asked me to be part of this, I kind of looked at all the technologies that were out there, and I really focused on what would be appropriate for a city or town. And these areas that I've listed here are really, you know, what's been happening out there over the last couple of years. People have received funding for different technologies. You know, as you know, through the MassEVIT program, there are a lot of battery electric vehicles in cities and towns, which they really love. The hybrid upfit, you know, if you look at that DCR van, the white van on the right, that is actually has an electric launch and it's a company called XL Hybrid. And then biofuel propane, Knight's Limousine out in Worcester, Shrewsbury, they converted a whole series of their vans to run on propane and gasoline, and they're saving a lot of money on fuel. And then we have our age-old, you know, which Mark and I know very closely about biofuel and the whole use of B20 biofuel. The bus on your left, the yellow school bus, is the Boston school bus. If you notice the green bird up over the door, that means that bus is operating on propane. I want to say it's the green bluebird, but that isn't right. It's a bluebird bus, but it's a green bird. Very interesting. So that bus, the city of Boston a few years ago started converting all his buses, all 700 is his goal. He's up to about 300 buses right now running on propane. And if you ever want to know about that technology, just, you know, email Peter Crusson, who runs that fleet, and he'll give you about 3 pages worth of information. He does love those buses, and there's a lot of good reasons to run propane in school buses. So those are the technologies. And the next slide will tell you a little bit about how we're going to provide some funding for those opportunities. Next slide.
Hang on.
Oops.
There we go. No, it went too far. Went too far. We apologize. We got new computers, so we're testing them out.
Okay.
She's copying. There we go.
Okay. We're really going to talk about the DOER funding opportunities. We just released a program opportunity notice for grants to provide an incentive to get the differential cost of retrofitting vehicles and also deployment of idle reduction technology. And that basically will say if you have a pickup truck with, let's say, 10, 15,000 miles on it, it's a Ford F-150 or 250, we will allow you to request funds to do 80% of the addition of XL hybrid or electric hybrid drive. Or if you have a 19-passenger bus that's on the road and you'd like to do hydraulic hybrid, that's where you use a hydraulic system to do a hydraulic launch. So you're saving. And these technologies can save you close to 20% or better in fuel usage. So we also have another grant which we would, if you wanted to do propane, you want to do biofuel in your pickup trucks, we can add the propane technology. The city of Boston, in the last couple of years, has done over 25 of their pickup trucks, so they're now biofuel. So in a resiliency standpoint, if you can't get your hands on the fuel, the gasoline, but you have a tank of propane in your back 40, you can just keep running on that propane, which is kind of a nice resiliency process. So we're going to, Clean Cities is going to do a newsletter very shortly with all the information on how you can apply for these grants, which I think is important. I think the next step, it will be a poll question. So everyone has an opportunity to vote on their computer. So here's the first question. Does your fleet include vehicles that could be retrofitted with hybrid technology, based on what I said? So if everyone take a minute to say yes, no, or not sure, we can certainly, would love to hear from you. We'll take a couple of minutes here. And
so it looks like 44% yes and 56% not sure.
okay, good. So those not sure people, email me. We'll make you sure. But we have more testimony going on today, so maybe you'll change your mind. So, and basically the hybridization retrofits go to either GM or Ford pickup trucks. If it has a drive shaft, it can be retrofitted. What they do, what the technology is they take your long drive shaft underneath your van or your pickup truck, they cut it in, they pull it out, and they put two drive shafts in. In the middle of those two drive shafts, they put a little motor, and then they have a battery. And so when you launch on that electric. You don't launch on gasoline. So there's a save. That's how you save. DCI, I noticed they handle the guards on Revere Beach, and they every morning during the summer they walk along the beach, and this van just sits there and moves every couple of minutes as the guys walk down the beach, and they're getting a huge savings because they're doing it all electric. They're not doing it on gasoline. So those are the kinds of things we love to fund. So great. Here's the fuel reserve for medium and heavy duty vehicles. You know, as I said before, we're doing certainly the ability to add the hydraulic hybrid to to a 19-passenger van, and it's a little more. And there, we also have a program called eNow, and eNow is such that you take solar panels, put them on a medium duty or a heavy duty truck with a battery coupled, and what you do is you use that battery to do your lift gate or other auxiliary lights and actions on your vehicle, and you don't have to idle. It eliminates the idling. It's a great technology. They have a solar panel that's very flexible. It doesn't get broken by trees, so it works out very well. CNS Wholesale has a bunch on their tractor trailers. So next. We're also doing CNG powered waste vehicles. If you have if your municipality has trash trucks and you're getting ready to replace one or two of them, we'll aid in we will actually pay almost 80% of the differential cost to add CNG to that new refuge truck, which is nice. And if you happen to be in the area around Framingham, the Western Regional Transit Authority has a brand new CNG filling station out there. All their transit buses will be CNG over the next couple of years. And so any municipality that's near Framingham could get access to that CNG at their station. And CNG propane, if you have a school bus and you want to do something like Boston has done and you want to convert those buses to propane, we'll enable you to do that with some of this funding. So that's great. And there are state contracts, which are very interesting. You know, it eliminates the need to go out to bid, VH98, which is really all the light duty, and they actually have buses on there now, full electric Bluebird buses, as well as propane, as well as regular gasoline and diesel buses. And they have battery electric vehicles on that contract, as well as many hybrids and plug-in hybrids. The FAC 88 electric lawn and grounds equipment, that's a new contract, and that enables, if you have a gang mower, you can actually electrify that, and you can electrify all your little weed whackers and equipment like grounds equipment. You can go soup to nuts, and guess what? There's no more noise. It's really nice. VH106 is telematics. That's an opportunity to plug in a device onto your ODB2 port and track fuel usage. It actually tells you about maintenance when you're due for maintenance. It's a great tool. It's relatively small money, but I think in the end you're going to find that you're going to save a lot of fuel by looking at those reports. in VH102 for idle reduction technology. We have XL Hybrid, Lightning Hybrid, solar for the trucks, that eNow technology, and we also have charging stations on there, and we're getting ready very shortly to open that up, and we're going to have a lot more vendors on that contract. So if you're really looking for that onesies and twosies kind of addition to your vehicle, that's the contract to look at. So that's me. I entertain, and I'd be glad to come out to communities and talk directly to you folks about these technologies. And I think next we have Mark Fournier. You're on, Mark.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Fournier. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works and the Highway Superintendent in Andover, Massachusetts. Even more importantly today, I was the former Director of Plant Operations and Sustainability at Lasell College in Newton. And while there, we had a really nice initiative to electrify, actually reduce our emissions on our van vehicles there. Am I gonna, Yeah. Great. So we worked, Steve and I worked many years in alternative fuels and alternative fuel vehicles, and in 2015 and 2016, we received a $34,000 grant from the Mass DOER to install XL Hybrid technology on vans and cut vans. So we did 3 Chevy 2500 passenger vans. These vans were used by the faculty and students to shuttle students around to local organizations so we could go out and teach in regional programs. The nice thing about this program is that it was seamless. Basically, we put the technology in the vans and they didn't know it was there, and we saved 20 to 25% in fuel, and we reduced our emissions by about the same amount. We also did 2 Ford shuttle cut vans, and these vans go from the college in Newton out to the T stations and out to the malls and any other place that the students want to go to. And so we did the same thing here. The person that's in the red jacket's an old friend of mine, and I actually stopped in to see him a few weeks ago to see how the program was going. And basically he said, you know, it's just like driving a regular van, and we're saving 25% on our fuel costs and we're doing the right thing for the environment. The other thing that was really nice about this program is that it expanded into other areas on campus. It got people thinking about alternative fuel technology and alternative ways for the staff, the facility staff, to get around. You know, years ago, people would have laughed at us if we had talked about these vehicles, and now they've really embraced this technology. Lasell College is in the middle of a suburban neighborhood in Newton, so it's very compact and tight. So these vehicles are really good for that purpose and for that use on campus. It also gets the students to think about the technology at the same time. Some of the other benefits for XL, it's called XL Fleet now instead of XL Hybrid, called XL Fleet, I just learned the other day, is that there's really a low barrier to entry. You basically, like Steve said, you cut the drive shaft, you install an electric motor, they flash the computer on the vehicle, and you're basically ready to go. They also have a really good program to track data. XL Fleet does have track data for all their vehicles. So there's been some incredible fuel savings and some dramatic greenhouse gas emissions reductions through the use of these vehicles. In my role at Andover in the Public Works Department, we're looking at installing this technology on some F-150 pickups and some Ford Transit 250 vans that we're using.
Now we have fun.
Because now we have funds through the grant program, which is awesome. It's really good. So I've been asked to talk to you about poll question number 2. So if you're involved with vehicle purchasing decisions in your community, would you recommend including hybrid technology in the light and medium duty vehicles you purchase? Yes, no, not sure, or you're not involved in purchasing, and we'll wait to see your responses.
Yeah, the hybridization of light duty vehicles is really an incredible use of enabling you to reduce your fuel usage
It is.
in a fleet.
And,
That's great.
And there's so
Yeah.
few options in that market to reduce
Right.
your emissions in that
Yeah.
in that sector, that this is a real opportunity. The other nice thing about XL Fleet, it's a Massachusetts company.
Right.
So looks like we have 50% have responded as a yes. That's a good thing. 13% are not sure, and 30% of you are not involved in purchasing decisions. So for the 13% that aren't sure, call Steve and I, and we'll help convince you that it's a good idea.
That's right. Next is.
I have a couple of slides. I forgot about these. So I've been doing sustainability work for decades. I was at UMass Amherst for many years, and if you read the latest report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it's pretty grim reading. So the reason it's so much more important to do this today than it was even 10 years ago. We know that the consequences of climate change are dramatic, and they're here. So anything you can do through these grant programs to change your fleet now is really important. And here's a shot of some of our old work in the old days. This is probably 25 years ago now. At UMass, they thought we were a little crazy. We received a grant from the DOER for some little geometros that came out of a transit program that DOER was running with some of the transit stations in the Boston area. And we got 20 of these geometros that we ran on campus for decades. And it really helped people think about alternative fuel transportation and that these weren't toys anymore. So this was a shot. I love this shot. I have it on my desk still, 25 years later. So thank you so much. Oh, and my contact information is right there in the right-hand corner. You're free to contact me anytime, and I'd love to speak with you about anything you're concerned about, environmental or otherwise. And we're going to move on to Haiti Janik, who's the Transportation Branch Chief at the Mass DEP.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. That was great. Very informative. So thanks for having me. I'm going to talk to everybody about recently launched Volkswagen settlement grant programs. But before I do, there is another poll question. So please go ahead and respond to this one, and we'll see. Test the waters here.
Can't wait to hear the results on this one. Should be interesting.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, they're voting. When I was driving here today, down 93, I was happy to see a CNG trash truck that was owned by, it's actually a recycling truck owned by Save That Stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they
One
got
of
a
our old
grant from
friends.
us. Yes, they got a grant from us.
Okay, so we have the results. Many of you, 40%, do have battery electric or plug-in hybrid in the fleet. Another 40% no, but are thinking about it, which is great and probably part of why you're on this webinar. And 12% was no, and a few left were not sure. So we have launched our Volkswagen settlement grant programs. There are a number of different programs. Am I waiting for the slide to come up?
Yeah.
So I can tell you a little bit about them while we're waiting for that first slide to come up. There are a number of different programs under Volkswagen, but that are wearing the Mass Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, Mass EVIP, which has been an existing program at Mass DEP for a number of years for fleets and for workplace charging. So some of the funding from Volkswagen has been allocated to those programs, and they've been revamped and relaunched. And also what has been added to the existing programs is a program for multi-unit dwellings, as well as one for what's called public access charging, which is to provide publicly accessible charging stations. So still no, I'll keep talking. The two programs are being run as rolling programs. That would be the workplace charging and the multi-unit dwelling charging programs. So by rolling, they're functioning the same as the old EVIP programs did, the first come, first served basis while there is funding available. It will cover 60% of the cost of the charging station hardware, up to a maximum of $50,000 per street address. This is only for Okay, we're up. This is only for level 1 and level 2 charging stations. The DC fast charging is very expensive and not part of this current offering. For workplace charging, you must have 15 or more employees on site to qualify, and for the multi-unit dwellings, there must be 10 or more units. Also under Mass EVIP is another program called the Public Access Charging Program. This is a competitive program, so we have a deadline coming up of March 18th.
28.
No, it's March 18th. Okay. Yep, I can verify this is correct. And for that, we will cover 80% of the cost of the charging station and the installation costs, and up to $6,250 per port. And the port is the thing that you put into the car to charge it. So there could be a station that has more than one port or more than one port. I think we might actually require dual ports, but anyway, the money is per port, so make that clear. And that's also a maximum of $50,000 per street address, also level 2. And the big requirement there is that it has to be publicly accessible for a minimum of 12 hours a day. So however one can make that work, you can qualify for that program. And there's a lot more information about these programs and the other ones I'll talk about on our website. The next program is also under Mass EVIP, and why this is separated out is it is our fleets program. This is a pre-existing program that we have refunded with the same funding sources, so it's actually not Volkswagen funding. And this program is for you to get not only electric vehicles, but also the charging infrastructure, if you need it, for your fleets. To get funding for charging infrastructure, you do need to also purchase electric vehicles through the program. These two tables show you kind of the layout of how this works. There's a maximum of $7,500 for an electric vehicle or a charging station. You can get more money the more electric vehicles you put into your fleet, starting at a minimum of 2.
Caveat to that program is if you previously received funding for electric vehicles in your fleet, you can only get additional cars. So if you receive 5 cars in the last grant, and you want, because it's up to 25 now.
The 25 maximum.
Right, but you can only get, if you already purchased 5 through the grant, you can only get 20 cars. So I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, so if you have participated in the past program, then you got, say, 5 vehicles, you would only be able to get 20 more even through this new round of funding. We have maxed it out at the moment at 25 per municipality. So the last program that we have launched is called our Open Solicitation program. This is completely different from the EVIP programs. There are numerous eligible pieces of equipment or vehicles. This shows you a view of what all the different, it's called eligible mitigation actions, so eligible equipment. Generally is from large trucks to forklifts and port cargo handling equipment. And like I said, a lot more details on that, because there are definitely, it's not just any old school bus or any old freight switcher. There are criteria that you have to meet, and those are all laid out in all of our documents on our website that we'll get to later, and you can.
And these are all diesel.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The vehicles are definitely diesel.
Right. Yeah.
So their application deadline is also March 18th. We launched all these programs on the same day, and you have 60 days to get your applications in. It is competitive. The selection criteria are also laid out clearly in the program guidelines, so you'll want to take a look at those. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm available. We have a number of different people to answer your questions and to help you through the application process. So don't hesitate to call, although I would appreciate it very much if you do read through not just the guidelines, but also the program forms, because there's lots of instructions and more information on all of those program forms. Once you've read through all of those and you still have questions, or if you have a question and you can't move forward with where you're at the application, absolutely call and we will help you out. These are the program web pages, and I heard you say, Joanne, that you can push a button. So if you guys want to capture that in a screenshot so you can remember, I also think, Googling Mass DEP Volkswagen grants should get you in the right direction as well. But these are the actual links to all of our different programs. You'll see the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act program down at the bottom. For those of you familiar with the DOER program, it's an annual grant that states apply for and allows them to pass through grant funding for replacement and various diesel, emission reduction actions. And we are also going to be doing an open solicitation for that. We have not launched that yet, but we will be doing so shortly, so keep your eyes out for that. You can also get on our list to be notified when that does open. If you already are on our Volkswagen stakeholder list, you will get an email about it anyway. If you are not or aren't sure, go ahead and contact us. I think my contact info is on the next page. And go ahead and contact us at volkswagen.settlement@mass.gov, and we'll put you on that list so that you are notified when that opens, because if your equipment or vehicle is not eligible under Volkswagen, it may be eligible under DOER for some funding.
Terrific. This is Joanne. I'm taking the microphone back. And I just wanted to also let you folks know that there's also funding available through our Green Communities grants. And generally, we've been supporting publicly accessible charging stations, plug-in hybrid and battery electric hybrid. We do limit these 2 per applicant. So these are for communities that are eligible green communities. We are going to be launching our competitive grant shortly, so once that is public, we'll be able to provide more information on what those funding levels are, but generally that's what we've been supporting through the Green Communities grants. And then also through the Green Communities grants, we help fund the hybrid retrofits that Steve Russell had mentioned. So we're able to support that as well. So just stay tuned for that. And then since we're talking about vehicles and charging stations, we just wanted to mention that Eversource and National Grid are also running programs to help with growing the charging station infrastructure. So they are, they have different, Go Green with National Grid and Eversource Make Ready. They have assistance to help with up to 100% of the installation costs for the charging station. So this would be any electrical work, if you need to do any trenching or things like that, things that Eversource, you would need to do to connect the charging station to a supply source. The programs are very similar, but they're not alike. So feel free to go to their websites and contact the people listed on the slide there. They'll be able to answer more questions. And with that being said, I know you might feel overwhelmed with the choices and variety of information we just presented. And here's just sort of a rule of thumb as it pertains to charging stations in particular. Of course, first of all, if you want to install a charging station, you want to pick a good location for it. And here's, some simple guidelines. You want people to use it, you want it to be easy to use, and you want it to be safe. And then I would recommend contacting your local electric utility to see how they could support, if you need some assistance with the infrastructure portion of the installation of your charging station. Find out what their program is, what they can offer, what their timelines are, etc. Determine what kind of equipment you want to acquire. As Steve mentioned, there's a variety of charging station vendors on state contract, and soon there'll be more. And I know the utilities also have preferred vendors, so you'll need to, figure out what works best for you. And then in terms of grant funding for the equipment, between, if you're a green community, you can certainly use a green community grant. If you're not, you can certainly apply through any one of the EVIP programs that Haiti had mentioned. And basically, there's no right or wrong. Just determine which program best fits your needs and timeline. There's a lot of options, and we don't want it to be overwhelming, but just to look at it, contact your utility first, and then go from there and see if that works. And with that, I believe we are ready for questions. I think that's our last slide. Yes.
Okay, we have our first question The person says they are not familiar with the hybrid electric retrofit for the F-150 or F-250. Confirms this works for the F-250?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Yep, it does, yep. And if you go to XL Fleet on the website, they will actually list the vehicles that are available for upfit, both GM and Ford.
Right. And the nice thing, there's a plug-in F-150 coming.
Right.
It's not here yet, but it's on its way.
Yeah.
So it's a really good
A little pricey.
option. A little pricey, but it's on its way.
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of goes with the next question, which is they were looking for more information on what and how the F-250 hybrid conversions and the solar on the heavy-duty trucks, like how they can do that on the state contract, but it's not really clear. So they're looking for something a little more user-friendly.
Go to VH 102, the contract, and take a look at what's available there. They'll list the vendors as well as pricing on that contract. So you have to go to Combis and work your way down to the location.
Or if you have trouble, contact Steve and he'll walk you through it.
Yes, if I can with Combis.
And the other thing that they have there is you can call their central number, and they have helpers on the desk that can help you through the
They're
That
actually
is
very
correct.
helpful.
They're
They
very
are.
helpful.
I find, for me, even I've worked with this state for many years, and I just call the people, and they help, go down through the weeds and get to the right contract really quickly, and they've been very good.
Okay, third question. If my town owns its school buses, can I use a VW grant to replace it with an electric school bus?
I mean, absolutely, as long as the school bus fits the eligibility requirements. And another thing that wasn't on the slides I'll mention is that whatever equipment or vehicle you want to replace the old one has to be scrapped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another person wants to know, does a municipal town hall count as a workplace? Also, is there a separate set of grant opportunities for EVs or charging stations through N-Grid or other utilities?
For part one, sure. If it has 15 or more employees, and if you read through the workplace charging guidelines and requirements, you'll see the criteria you need to fit in order to be eligible for that program. You have to restrict the parking for employees, for example. I think there might be some ability to share the charging stations with other people, but it goes program by program, and if you have any questions, just give us a call.
What was the second half of that question?
It was about EVs and charging stations from utilities.
Yeah, through N-Grid or other utilities, which I think was in your slide, but just in case, maybe.
Yeah, so if you contact the utilities directly, they can walk you through what they offer through the infrastructure program, the Make Ready program.
This is Haiti again. I'll also point out that while you are allowed to partner with the utilities and still apply for our Volkswagen, our EVIP funding, you can't have more than 100% of your project covered, of course.
That kind of follows up with the next question, which I think you might have just answered. It's, can I apply for funding from either workplace charging or public access charging and get funding from my utility company? And what is the 60–80% reimbursement based on?
So the short answer is yes for the first part. The 60 or 80. So you mean if you mean the difference between workplace charging and multi-unit dwelling, which is both 60% maximum funding, and the public access is 80%. What is it based on?
So I think, like, if you're getting installation help from your utility, is the 60% of the total cost, or 60% of what the town has to pay out of pocket, minus the National Grid grant?
So my reading of this is that Volkswagen settlement grants we will provide up to 60% or 80%, depending on the project, to a maximum of $50,000 for the entire project, and for what's eligible under our projects, which is why I don't have everything in front of me, but we have a nice table of what we'll cover and what we won't cover. I think it literally says that, what we cover, what we won't cover. It's going to be 60% of the eligible costs, and then you have to come up with the 40% from somewhere else, and that can be through the utility programs.
Perfect. And then this one is for Joanne. It is this separate from the other Green Community competitive grants?
No. So all of our Green Community grants are part of a overall grant solicitation. So vehicle efficiency projects are among other projects that we fund, and it's included in our designation and competitive grant solicitations. It is not a separate grant opportunity.
This is similar to ones I think we just answered. Can you speak to how we are allowed or not allowed to put various funding and grant programs together? Can we use the GC grant to pay for the 20% the other grant doesn't cover?
20.
So
for like Steve's grant, or
Yeah,
yeah, if you had a GC grant, could you use it to cover, like, say, the 80% version, like the extra 20 that they would be out of pocket? GC.
That's a good question, and there is a lot of money flowing around right now around electric vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure. So I'm going to have to hold off and say we probably still need to have discussions about that.
on my side, the ponds, I would, we'll work together with a Green Community grant. So if you're doing a fleet hybrid on a vehicle and you need an additional dollars because we're only doing 80% of the outfit, I'll work with Green Communities, and if that community applies for a grant, hopefully we'll be able to provide almost 100%, which would be great. I think that will help people to nudge people into that process.
This kind of follows up on the utility slide. The person wants to know, the EV programs were presented, Eversource provides electricity in our community. Are we only eligible to apply for Eversource programs, or is NGrid required to accept?
No, my understanding is if you're in an Eversource territory and you want infrastructure assistance, it's through Eversource. And if you're National Grid territory, it's through National Grid. And if you're in a municipal light territory, you can't obviously apply for Eversource or National Grid, but a number of them do support charging stations, so contact them.
And this one is, how are maintenance and repairs handled with hybrid retrofitted vehicles?
So first of all, they're dramatically less, right? So in electric vehicles, for instance, there's a huge reduction in maintenance costs and repairs. We've seen anyway. And with the hybrid Lasell technology, we haven't had any problems, but if you did, you just go right to Lasell Fleet, and they would support the repairs, and they've been really good. And the nice part about them is they're in Massachusetts too, so they're right around the corner.
And it's, if you purchase the vehicle through Ford directly and have it done by Ford when you order the vehicle, it's covered under warranty. In fact, it's a VQM accepted Ford technology. So they don't, if you put it on your truck and you have some problems, it's not going to be, the Ford isn't going to blame it on the technology, and the technology isn't going to blame it on Ford. They're going to stand by it and make sure your warranty covers the problems. So that's one good thing about that technology. They work with the manufacturers.
Someone had asked us to put the utility program slide back up, so I just put it up for people to grab the contact info and the links.
Yeah, Mark Rooney is the guy to contact for Eversource, and Mark Siegel for National Grid, and they agreed to have their email posted here, so feel free to contact them.
This question actually is pretty good. It's about experience with municipal electric companies. This one references Hudson Light and Power. So do the municipal utilities also have programs you can take advantage of?
Some do. Some are jumping in because the municipal light companies actually benefit from the sale of electricity. So I think several of them have woken up and said, ooh, we should find out who has an electric vehicle and work with them. I know that the Concord is very much wants to know and wants to work with folks who have electric vehicles. They're encouraging, and these municipalities will work on time of use charging. So they'll encourage you through some discounts to charge at night for your cars. So I think there's some of that going on out there. It really depends on the municipality you're in and what your light company is, but I think they're all beginning to see the light, I think, which is great.
No pun intended.
Yes, no pun intended.
This goes to, please explain the different vehicle classes, light duty classes 1 and 2 versus medium duty heavy classes 3 through 8.
If you go into our ponds, there's actually a definition of the weight class. It starts at 8,500 pounds and goes up, and it breaks off it in the different classes. And we have that breakdown in our ponds.
And same for the Volkswagen programs. They're going to be weights and tiers and all that information, so you can see if your specific vehicle is eligible in our program guidelines.
So is a F-350 heavy duty?
It's a medium duty.
That's a medium duty,
Yeah.
okay. But a 550 might be a heavy duty.
It depends on what you put on that equipment.
Okay.
You know, it gets dicey. You know, you get into 35,000 pound GVWs, and then you go and put a plow on it, and you put something else on it, and you realize, oh my gosh, that's a $40,000 truck, and it was designed for 35,000 pounds. So, you know, you really, when you get into speccing trucks, there's a lot of nuances you have to pay attention to, as Mark would attest to.
Yes, because you can change the capacities of the axles for a heavier duty body.
And the brakes.
So probably it's good to call you if people have questions
Right.
about those weight classes.
Yes.
In the grant.
Similarly, somebody asked, is the XL fleet the only option for hybrid retrofits?
At this time, on the electric side, yes. The Lightning Hybrids has a hydraulic hybrid upfit. It's a little more pricey, but it's really designed for those a little heavier duty vehicles. So I think your buses at Lasell, did you do the?
We did XL fleet. They were light enough to do, they were just a Ford Cut van, so they were light enough to do the XL fleet.
Yeah.
And somebody was following up on your last answer saying, what are ponds?
Oh, Program Opportunity Notices.
Another one of those state acronyms.
Yes, I apologize for that. We can't call them grants. We have to call them Program Opportunity Notices.
And then in order to retrofit gas vehicles with hybrids, we have to use the state's program, not the VW Open Solicitation grant, correct?
Correct.
Correct. That's not going to be an eligible vehicle.
Right. It has to be a diesel vehicle.
Right.
Sorry.
And will the grants be expanded to address hybrid police vehicles, Ford Interceptor utility hybrid specifically?
Yes, if you purchase a Ford Fusion hybrid pursuit vehicle, the differential cost, 80% of the differential cost of that vehicle can be supported by our Program Opportunity Notices grant.
And will there be an hybrid interceptor on state contract?
Yeah, we have 4 dealerships on the contract, and as soon as that early 20, late 19 vehicle appears on the dealerships, then it will be on the contract, because the VH98 is designed to allow the state to put, if you're on the contract, you can add vehicles without having to redo the whole contract.
So those would be like Ford Explorer type?
Right.
Okay,
right.
because the Fusion's already on.
Yeah, but
correct?
this would be the Fusion hybrid.
Okay.
Pursuit hybrid. The key to police vehicles, it has to be a pursuit rated vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Certain tires, certain engines, certain electrical load, right down to what kind of hoses you have on your vehicle. It gets pretty interesting when it comes to pursuit vehicles. And they do that on purpose, because you don't want to be going down the highway at 90, 100 miles an hour with a tire that's rated for a pleasure car. It would blow them out. So gets pretty technical, interesting.
Somebody wants to know if the slide deck could be shared with key utility contacts to be cascaded internally.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, absolutely.
We will be posting the copy of the slides in PDF as well on our webinars page. If you go to DOER's homepage, we have a news and events page, and we have a link to straight to the webinars page. So you can always find all our webinars and all the material related to them on that. It may take a couple of days for the question and answers for questions we may not have answered. We've gotten to most of them in this particular slide deck, but you can always find our information there, and then also contact us via our email with any follow-up questions.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, terrific. Thank you all for sticking with us for nearly the hour. I know it's a lot of information, but do reach out to all the contact people who presented. And I want to thank Steve, Mark, and Haiti for sharing their knowledge with us. It was very informative. And have a great afternoon.